Okay, Pete, what do we have here?
Hi, my name is Pete again, and I've always been a 32 nut, and go back to my growing up in New Jersey, and I like 32 Fords are my only thing, and I'm basically a hot rodder. However, I would never ever cut any sheet metal on one. I like to get a car that's pieces and parts and all that. But anyway, this came along. I've had this car about, it's been close to 15 years now, and a few surprising things happened. I bought the car knowing that it came out of my original home state of New Jersey, and I didn't buy it for that reason, but I bought it because the car is absolutely stone stock. This car is exactly the way I would have seen it when I was in high school, looking at some old car in a garage. The patina is a little more increased because of the age, but this is what I remembered as we would see a car that had been driven by somebody, and somebody stopped driving it because of a reason, health, whatever. And this car is absolutely stock. It's the way it left the factory in 32. I've got to say honestly, there isn't one thing on this car, maybe the battery, because the batteries get replaced. There isn't one thing on this car that's a repro. It's absolutely 100% original. And the history that we got with it, and I've got a little book where I'll show you some things inside. It was in the glove pouch. The car spent its life in the town of West New York, New Jersey, and which is right across the Hudson River from New York City. And anyhow, I got to get my thoughts straight here. This fella owned it. He went to trade it in apparently in 1953 on a new car. And of course the dealer didn't want it, didn't allow him enough or whatever, so he kept it. And at any rate, the car, I find out, I didn't pay much attention when I bought it, but it's a deluxe 32 4-cylinder. Now, I have some statistics on it. We checked. I had a fella who's passed away here not long ago by the name of, gotta get my glasses out here, Dave Cowl, who was an absolute expert on 32s. The late Dave Cowl wrote a story for the January and February 2008 issue of V8 Times, even though it's a 4-cylinder, an extensive article on this car. He did the research, he did all the work on the serial number and everything, and some interesting notes came out of it. First of all, the car was made in Weehawken, New Jersey. It's a deluxe 4-cylinder, as I said. Now, deluxe meant cowl lights instead of parking lights in the headlights. Cowl lights, safety glass all the way around, ashtrays, armrests, these are the extras, and wood grain. Now, the car sold a standard V8 without those options, 4-cylinder, sold for $400. This sold for $450. I'm laughing, there's nobody in my family would have, excuse the French, wasted, I shouldn't say, would waste $50, which is probably 2 weeks pay then, on a bunch of nonsense. But this car is a deluxe 4-cylinder. Now, according to my notes and Dave Cole's notes, they made, I got it written down here somewhere, they made 4,000, here we go, they made 4,000 of the, roughly 4,000 of the 4-cylinder deluxe Tudors. They made 37,000 of the standard, which is a big difference. So it's a fairly rare car. Anyway, again, this thing it's nothing's been changed on it. Dave Cowl looked underneath the car and he said, you know, this car has a Ford or an original exhaust system. He said, nobody's been able to reproduce the Benz. He knew the Benz, I can't remember what it was. He knew the angle. He said, so the exhaust on this is as it came from Ford. The car's got a little over 60,000 miles, 61 or something, 1,000 miles on it. And other than that, it's stone, it's stock. The wheels are original. There's a book inside. I'm going to skip around with it. There's a little book inside a notebook, which I'll show in a minute here. These tires were put on in 1957. And just like my grandfather would have done, the guy marked down the serial number of the tires, put them in the book. That's how I know it's 57. I drive it around town. I mean, I get up to 50, but I'm careful. Never had a tire problem. I drive around town with the original wheels, original tires. The car's never been repainted. It's got, I don't wash it, if you notice it's dirty, because I've taken it to a couple events where it's dirty and the people go crazy over it. I had it about 10 years ago down at the Trump Golf Course in Palos Verdes. They had a big fundraiser, and they were for a hospital every year. They had people there with neckties on and blazers and all this. Anyway, there was a row, they were honoring the 32 Ford. They had a row of 32 restored cars and mine. And they had a bunch of hot rods too. Anyway, mine was sitting there, and a friend of mine went with me who was a 32 expert. We couldn't get away. We couldn't get lunch. People went crazy over this because I had it looking like this. It looked terrible as far as, but people loved it because all the others were shiny and over restored. So now this one has some patina on it. For some strange reason, living in New Jersey, I don't know why this is. It could be a warm, like today, a warm, dry day, no moisture anywhere. You open a garage door and everything's soaking wet. The top of the vehicles are soaking wet. So that explains why there's this little surface rust on things. But there's no rust anywhere on the car. The floorboard underneath, you could polish it because we understand through the family, the fella, if it rained, the car never went out in the rain. And up in all the years he had it. Now, I have no idea what he did or why, but apparently, I know in that area, West New York, New Jersey, in the 30s and 40s, there's certainly been plenty of buses and trolley cars, because not everybody even had a car. So, anyhow, one thing while I'm standing here, in the state of New Jersey, there was a time you had to go through a state inspection twice a year. And again, living there, I was paying attention to cars, even as a kid. And if you had a fender that cracked, you had to weld it or put a patch on it. I can remember my grandfather and his neighbor getting and putting a patch on just like this one and that one, because the fender was cracked, and he'd drill it and put these screws in exactly the way this has been done. So I've left that because the fender would flap and it would crack and it would not pass inspection. Speaking of inspection, the last time this car was inspected in the state of New Jersey, there's a sticker on the windshield. What does that say, Dave? 62, right?
61.
61. 1961. That'd be 9 of September of 61 was the last time it had a state inspection.
Pop the hood there, will you,
Yep,
please?
I'm gonna pop the hood. And the motor is absolutely stock. I leave it. Pardon me. Pardon me. Excuse me. It's got some rusty water in it, which I like because that's the way cars were. You looked at the cars, holy smokes! But once in a while, the radiator you get warm and it come out and overflow a little bit. That's why I left it rusty. I see somebody somewhere has put a non-original carburetor on it. I mean, it's a replacement. And by the way, this has the aprons in it. They were always removed from cars. The splash aprons. It's everything that came from the factory is here, except the carburetor. It's changed. The original carburetor, quite sure I haven't looked in a while, but it's under the back seat. The radiator, you can see, nothing been fooled with. The radiators, you usually have the fins pinched and all that. Nothing. It's not been touched. 2-3 years ago, I did put another water pump on it because I felt the water pump was leaking. It's still, these packing nuts leak once in a while, but that's part of it. But anyway, everything under this hood is stock. It's still got this vibrator or dampener, they call it. Everything's there as it came from Ford. Nothing's changed, and all original. So
great.
It's the way it came out of the factory. The lights, I gotta check, but I'm sure the lights all work. The interior lights work. Another thing, on these windows, you gotta look real carefully. And that's part of the reason some of my eyes are sort of giving me a hard time. I hope I have a license in a few years, but driver's license. At any rate, on these windows, I know you can't see it with a camera, but in there, on each window, there's a Ford emblem, and it's got the date in there. And the date, it says, I think it says 7/32, which would be July 32 when the car was made. But that emblem is right there. So the windows have never been changed. They're original. The other thing too, this has got a beep horn in it. My understanding is that cars made after May 32 didn't have the logo horn, had the beep horn, so that explains that. Interior wise, the seat here is the seat is a little frayed, so I've got a t-shirt on it, but everything's stock. It did come when I got it without a floor mat. I had a replacement floor mat out of a Roadster, so it's a rubber floor mat, which isn't really correct. It fits fine, but nobody would know. I mean, I do because they put it in there. But anyway, somebody put an aftermarket radio in it, which doesn't work. Another interesting point, when my brother and I were growing up with 6-volt radios, I don't know why I remember this. I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but anyway, it had what usually failed was a tube called an OZ4. My brother passed away 10 years ago. In his belongings, he had a brand new OZ4, so that goes with the car. The other thing that doesn't work, the gas gauge. It's got that gas vapor operated thing which can be replaced. Other than that, the gauges work. The owner had put it. There's a what am I saying here? What am I calling it? I can't even think of this. For where you look at where you go in the direction northeast, southwest.
Oh, compass?
Compass, I didn't say it. A compass. Even has a visor in there, to drive. It has, for some reason, the brake pedal and the clutch pedal, 2 different bolt-on pedals. I don't know why that is. It's a little unusual, but no explanation for that. I don't know. But other than that, it's got the shade in the back works. The headliner's all intact. The lights work. Again, as I said, because of the Deluxe, it's got armrest and ashtrays in the back. So that's all there. It has, here's the interesting thing I found. It also has, in a door pouch on the right side, it has an inner tube patch kit. Would ever do it out on the road, I don't know, but had it in here in a book. The guy had, now best I can see, it started in there's the address where the car came from. The best I can see, he started in 1937 writing this stuff down. Everything in here from cigars to a hotel. They went in 1937, the best I can make out, he took a trip from New Jersey to Lima, Ohio. And he has all the details. And he stopped in a place in, I don't even know what town, but anyhow, in Ohio somewhere. And it shows the mileage on there. It was 18,000 at the time. And here rooms, rooms $1.50 and up. So that dates that a little bit. And there's others, they got price of cigars in here, price of fuel, and a bunch of just interesting information. But that was put in there. That book was done from 37 on till I guess his passing or something. So, at any rate, let's see. This car sat in a garage, and there were 2 doors that swung open like this. Now, it had another tire on here. I can just picture this. The sun comes in. We're talking 50-some years. Sun coming in the back of this car. And that's why this window is so crazed. I mean, you can see through it, but it's pretty hard. And the spare tire didn't have any air. So the fellow I got it from took it apart, and the red inner tube, I still have it, and it goes with the car. The other tire and inner tube, the inner tube actually melted inside the tire. It's all goo, and we were laughing over it, but that's what happened. I mean, this is a good one that has air in it. The fellow that I got it from, he had taken the gas tank out, and I guess the trick is to clean the tanks is to use citric acid. There's a place in Long Beach, California, apparently does it. He had it done. Knock on wood, I've had 0 problems with any kind of dirt in the fuel, so that's not been a problem. Other than that, everything underneath is stock. There's one other little thing I got to show you here. In 1932, Ford came out with a directive for the dealers saying that they were changing the bumper brackets because apparently the bumpers weren't lining up with other cars. So the story goes, this car had the bumper bracket bent. Somebody hit it. The fellow who owned the car went and bought a new bracket, and it even has, you look carefully, it still has the crayon part number marked on it on the side here. The new bracket is 1 inch, or supposedly 1 inch plus, higher than the original. He only bought one, so the bumper now goes uphill slightly.
Yeah.
And it's mentioned in the article in the magazine that was all covered. So I just to say it's a part of me, but I got too many damn cars. That's the problem.
Okay.
But at any rate, it pretty much covers it. I said it's got about, I think it's 61,000 on it. I'm probably missing a few of the features on it, but the car, again, suppose he never drove it in the rain. And if you look at the floorboard underneath, it's shiny, real shiny black. Oh yeah, it's never been repainted. And again, most of these cars, there are a lot of 32 sedans because there are so many made. There's a lot of original ones still around, but they usually have hydraulic brakes or some 36 engine or something's changed or has a 35-year-old paint job. This still has the original. You can still see the original stripe in here. This is original paint. This has never been painted.
Wow.
And there's no rust. That means no rust repair. There's no rust anywhere other than this surface like that. But windows all go up and down. Anyway, that's pretty much. I know I'm missing some things, but
Well, that's great, Pete.
it's original paint. So.
That's great. I really appreciate you sharing.
And by the way, it's a driver. I mean, I drive it around towns. It can be sitting there for a couple of months. I pull the choke out, pull the starter, and it starts right up. So it's not a problem. It's not something where you have to push it down a hill or anything like that.
Okay.
But the whole key is it's 100% original and absolutely no reproduction. I call it junk. It's a reproduction stuff. Either doesn't work or doesn't fit.
Okie doke. Super, Pete.
Okay.
Okay, Pete, fired up.